People. Hello. We're back again because in the last 24 hours, YandereDev has been up to the shit, and I think as of recording this about 6 hours ago, he released an apology video, which is pretty much the same as the apology he put up on his wiki a while back, but we'll get to that in a minute. For those who don't know, my name is Poptart. I've been actively covering this for about almost half a year now, and I'm pretty much just continuously updating this because I'm trying to keep an accurate record of as fuckery as I can, because no one outside of the people on KiwiFarms and those directly involved on the project, and those who are trying to support people such as Decepticommie or LEMC, really putting much words out about this. So, what's going on? Oh, sorry, OBS has been weird. Yeah, so just set your expectations. There is a lot of information to cover that I'll have to skip over because this is an update. It's not in itself a recalling of events. That video has already been done, and while I will be updating certain parts of it because new information has come to light that I've not yet been able to verify, because to verify that information is to go over the entire history again in one video and do like the whole thing again, and I don't see that as something that needs to be done until this situation with Jane is resolved, in which I'll be able to redo the entirety start to end. And you might be saying, well, why don't I do that every time he updates? Because the last time I tried to do this, it was almost an hour and a change long, and with all the, like, this is now the second update that I've had to do to it, and the last update I did was about 20 minutes, so that is a movie length amount of time, and that is not covering everything. In fact, the first time I did this series, first time I did it, I've lost my train of thought. So, first time I had to do this, it was hour and change long. The next update was 20 minutes long, and we're talking about a movie-length thing at that point. Like, we now have, like, if I were to add up the entirety of last two updates plus this one, we're going to be at 2 hours. Like, we're approaching Lord of the Rings on VHS length of time just talking about it, and this is what we know and what we've been able to find records of. Like, there is apparently some of the sources that I've gone to in the past suggest that with what we know from KiwiFarms, from LEMC and Decepticommie, from now Princess Di, who's apparently come out under an alternate username, from what we know, this is just what has been made publicly available. There is apparently, well, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a lot more information to go on, because what we're talking about is just like 3 people that I've had either direct contact with, or who I've been able to find accurate recalling of events from, that have been involved on Yandere Simulator, and there is a whole list of other people who have been involved on this project that either haven't told their story because they want to walk away from the situation, or have told their story and it's been a doctored version of the truth, or have been bullied into not releasing anything. But, you know, as always, the situation is evolving. It is continuously updating itself as time goes on, and if you have a piece of information that you feel is relevant to the narrative, or there is a piece of information that you feel as though I've glossed over or I haven't talked about, do let me know in the comments. I'll be, again, citing all my resources plus some new stuff that's come up. And yeah, let's get to it. So, again, just brief recap. Alexander, developer of Yandere Simulator, we all know who he is. If you don't, he developed Yandere Simulator largely as his own project after college. Here's some usernames he's gone by. Started at Kung Fu Factory after he left Santa Monica College, and pretty much worked in more of a design aspect rather than a coding aspect. During this time, he allegedly groomed Syphis, and I say allegedly because although I found a Tumblr post that did reference this as this is my story of what happened. A lot of the names mentioned on 4chan and other sites use either anonymous handles or handles that are so old you can't get in contact with them, so it is kind of hard to say if this was an accurate calling of events. Yandere Simulator has come back to this in the past and said this didn't happen, but given what we know of him, I highly doubt that what he said at the time was the truth. Again, fast forward to him wanting to leave Kung Fu Factory and work on his own shit. He developed a prototype for a game, got Mike Zaman to look at it, and he pretty much tore it to fucking shreds and said, you don't know what you're doing, this is a good concept, but you need to change how you program games, because you continue on the way that you're going, you're going to have massive issues, and those massive issues were due to programming errors or not being able to create code in an efficient manner. The entire game lags more than it should. He saw this before it happened, tried to warn him. YandereDev said, fuck you, I'm a make my own game with blackjack and hookers, and the last decade has more or less been a pissing contest between himself and Mike Simon. He decides to develop Yandere Simulator anyway, gets a lot of support, gets a lot of attention on it, and then burns a lot of bridges because he's been, in many ways, fucking over people who have been, quote-unquote, volunteers on the project. Again, not going to go into too much more detail than that if you want to know. Information's available on his blog. If you want to sift through my dumpster fire of a video I did on it, called Yandere Simulator Do Not Engage, it covers this in detail as well. But a couple notable examples are the Introverted Cartoonist, who did a lot of work for 1980s mode, did some modeling, YandereDev decided to go in another direction and paid an artist to copy her work, which I thought was quite weird, but yeah, that happened. She's quite bitter about it, had to go through a whole process just to, clear her name and get away from the situation. And this creator here is someone who wanted to work on the project as well, and again, this is not someone who I've been able to verify or go through the complaints in any real depth, because I've been dealing with my own shit and stuff like that. But again, this is available under this handle. If you want to go through and find this, you can download it, but the pretext of it, and this is just going off of the text document involved. Hello, I'm Princess Di. My real name is Yan. For context, I was Kissbop. Yada yada yada. She's an asset. She made a lot of assets for Yandere Simulator, and was a go-to volunteer. Did a lot of models, but eventually got screwed over by management by them treating her wrong or trying to get her uninvolved from the project at hand. It goes over some things that YandereDev allegedly did and stole from both herself and other people on the project. Cameron 305's involvement as well, of a bunch of other people, and I could go in more depth than that, but the gist of it is trans woman, sorry, that's my mistake. She apparently took note of a lot of real sus shit that was going on, took screen caps of Discord messages and the like, and made it available to the public. Now, again, I haven't been able to go over in any real depth. I've had a passing glance at it, so all I can say is take the information with a grain of salt, but, if even half of what's in there is true, it's just another damning accusation of how horrible it was to work on the project. And since then and during, again, a lot has happened with people, but from what I know, from around 2020 to mid-2023 or thereabouts, it was pretty much an endless clusterfuck of people saying, this is my involvement, this is how I got screwed over, this is some shit that's going on that shouldn't be, there's allegations of not being paid, of how he mistreats his staff, verified comments of how he views volunteers and quote volunteers and what he deems worthy of being like, paid work and what isn't. And it's just like an endless dumpster fire of shit going wrong on the project. Now, I probably should have put a picture of a dumpster that's on fire here, but I thought this was funny to look at, so I put it here anyway, and this is my presentation, so, neener, neener, neener. Anywho. So, that brings us forward to late 2023, where Jane reached out to LEMC via Discord. Again, not revealing Jane's username. This information, it's just another record of like how desperate Jane was to reach out for help. The exact messages that she sent Ellie has since been deleted. So it's impossible to say exactly what was said. What is important is based off of this and several other messages. It's, again, if these are pixelated, too bad, deal with it, because I'm not going to release these images publicly. If you want them, you can ask Ellie yourself. But again, what these images show is Jane reached out to LEMC saying, here's some shit going wrong, I don't like what's happening, I need some help, and Ellie advised her that if it happens again, take recordings. She did not coach her to do anything. She did not say that you should elicit a response, and those comments will become relevant later. All she did is advise, listen, and support. She did not force Jane's hand to make any comment. She did not advise Jane to make any sort of suggestion to elicit a response from Cameron, but Cameron will become up later. She did not coerce Jane into having any particular conversation with Alex. She simply was there as a supportive role and advised her to make recordings of conversations that were inappropriate should they happen again. And they did, multiple times. This was then put on blast by both herself and in a video that was released on YouTube that was taken down by Cameron305 via false copyright strike, which I believe is against YouTube TOS, but I'll have to look that one up. This was then put on blast by Decepticommie, who did a lot of work to help with Jane and supporting her on Discord. This is just further proof that, Cameron was involved. Again, his username is not here, however, I have it on good authority that he is the one who filed the false copyright strike to get the video taken down. Since then, he decided to distance himself once the video, which went viral on LEMC's account, went public. And yeah, that pretty much brought us forward to now. Now, what was interesting is in the video that LEMC mentioned, she did make mention to a several hour long interview where she sat down and had an in-depth conversation with Jane, tried to get into her headspace to see if she could actually identify that what was happening was inappropriate, that she could identify sexual misconduct, that she could identify what grooming was. There was a whole production going on. She did it. She only ever developed it if Jane was okay. She was signing it off, and I believe they were 24 hours to release. YandereDev got wind that it was happening and bullied her into not releasing the video, and coerced her also into releasing a public statement as well at the time. And he also, in response to that, released a apology video or apology post on his development blog for Yandere Simulator. So that pretty much brings us up to 5 hours ago, almost, because there are a couple of other things we have to cover as well. This statement was released on Twitter. I'm not going to go into too much depth about it because I covered it in the last video, but it's pretty much allegedly Jane releasing a comment where she talks about the grooming situation and how most of the information is bullshit. It covers her involvement with LEMC and a bunch of other topics that I've just covered. Now, originally when I saw this, I knew something wasn't right. It smelled very doctored. Turns out it was, and what happened is, before or around the time this was released, Cameron visited her, allegedly, but also allegedly sent an unsolicited dick pic to Jane as well. But what is confirmed is he was trying to set up Alex and Jane in conversations to re-enable that relationship, and that pretty much brought us to here. Now I could touch base on this in a little bit, but just in regards to that Twitter post, it has been largely confirmed that both Alex and Cameron did in fact write that statement, and the most common comment I've heard regarding what happened after that is Jane posted it on Twitter, but I don't believe that that's the case. I believe that this Twitter handle was created by one of those two, and it was framed in such a way where, well, they tried to frame it in such a way where the post was to be viewed as Jane making this statement, but given the length of the statement, given the detail that it goes into, and that more than one people have confirmed and posted evidence that Jane in fact did not write that statement, it's reasonable to assume that given Alex's behavior in the past and that he's not beyond coercing people into providing a doctored response to a situation, that Alex, it's reasonable to assume that given all of that, Alex and Cameron, who has served as his PR person in the past, put that post together and decided to release it. Why they decided to release it, I don't know, but it was probably to tie into this video here. Now, I'm not going to play the video here because it's no different than this. That's all the video is. If you don't know what this is back in September when YandereDev was responding to the situation. You don't need to know any more than that. Instead, I'll just go over some notes that I made about it, and if you want to pick apart the video yourself, please feel free. So like in the apology video, he admits that the conversations that he had with Jane was not okay. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. He says that the allegations of grooming are false, that he was not intending to do that. However, there was a confirmed response from Jane that he said, and I'm paraphrasing here, in 400 days we can be friends again, which is rather specific timing because in 400 days is allegedly when Jane turns of age. I'm not going to mention exactly what her age would be at that time. I know what it is, but I'm not going to say it. Which means that the timing of that statement and the statement made in the video provides, a contradiction. So I don't believe that he is genuine in that response. He says he's only apologizing what he feels like he should apologize for. And it's like, well, yeah, there's a lot you should apologize for, but let's continue. He says, claims that Jane had an adult sense of humor, and further claims that she was initiating a lot of these adult conversations. I don't believe that's the case. If you actually listen to the recordings in question, although we don't have a lot of recordings to go over, combined with the screenshots of Snapchat, it is more than reasonable to assume, based on the evidence at hand, that it was in fact Alex who was initiating this, not Jane. He then further claims that he must have said something that was a red flag, and she at some point started to record the conversations, and further claims that LEMC coached Jane into making all these sus comments to her. Again, I've spoken with Jane. That is actually not the case. again, if you go back up to the slide, which I'll do now, let's see. Yeah, pretty much these slides here, going off a conversation with Jane, she said that, going off a conversation with Ali, she said Jane was the first person to reach out. She didn't coach her and the only thing she said she should do is, if these conversations happen again, take screenshots, take recordings, record evidence. All she did. She did not coach her to make a specific response. She only advised her to gather evidence. Let's see. And I have multiple pages of notes. Like, because of how my brain works, there's so much shit going on that I actually had to write it down with pen and paper. Like, that's where we're at now. Further on in the video, he claims that Jane wrote a statement and released it and refuted a lot of the allegations, but, like we've already covered, that statement was doctored by either Alex, Cameron, or the both of them, and then released. Let's see. Right, I'll listen to the... Yeah, let's see, he's already covered that. And then he just further says that any comments that were sus, he was bullied into making or coerced into making. Sometime after that, he shows that he has a basic comprehension of what grooming is, and then says he had no intention of actually having those sus conversations and continuing that illicit relationship. If that was the case, as an adult, he should have cut off the relationship. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that what you are doing was, inappropriate. Now, at this point, I could probably say that it's related back to another comment he made where under, I think it was a Exfelion, he made comments about how he regretted never having a girlfriend in college and how this could apparently be his way to fulfill that fantasy, but I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not going to make that comment. However, there is, looking at that comment, which again is in my old video, YandereDev Do Not Engage, and looking at what's happening here, it's kind of hard not to draw a line. And I'm not the only one to do that. I don't know if Ali MC was referring directly to that comment he made on a blog a while back, but, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to connect that shit. Come on. He also said a lot of comments he made were bad and taken out of context, such as the OnlyFans comment, where he was quite shocked and said, quote, "Don't tell me this generation goes to OnlyFans because it's the best way to get rich quick." And where he asked Jane if she was going to make an OnlyFans, he said that was just him confirming if she was actually going to do that, because he was going to advise her not to do that. That's sus. But when you go over that recording that he's referring to, his tone in no way indicates that he was asking that question in that way with that inflection. Let's see. He said he never should have let those conversations happen in the first place, but, my response to that would be, if you were aware of those conversations being inappropriate and you felt uncomfortable, like you mentioned previously in the video, then again, why as the adult did you not shut the conversation down or step away? A normal adult would have blocked. He also said a normal adult would have blocked her the moment she said something inappropriate. He then says that because his mental health deteriorated, he was mentally unwell or not fit enough to call the situation off, and claims that his self-isolation was a result of was what caused that mental health deterioration, and claims that this should well, he doesn't claim, but he infers that because he was self-isolated, because he wasn't socialized, then he shouldn't be held liable, or his actions should, or that self-isolation should absolve him of any responsibility. Well, no. What you did was wrong, and as a result of your own actions, because even if that were the case, you were the one who decided to self-isolate because you wanted to have a pissing contest with Mike Simon, accept the responsibilities for your own actions, and seek help, you sick bastard. Let's see. He also then claims after 3 months of stepping away from the project, therapy, going outside, making friends his own age, and developing a, quote, good work-life balance, that he's better. Not all the way better, but better. And on the one hand, I hope that that's the case. On the other hand, I highly fucking doubt it. Because after a decade of pulling this shit, 3 months, at least to me, does not seem an appropriate amount of time to even come close to reapproaching this project. He then claims that several Discord messages were fake, but again, he has no real evidence to prove that, other than posting the evidence itself. Let's see. Yeah, again, he claims that he was not grooming her. He then tries to claim that he did not harm a child. While he may not have physically harmed a child, there is enough evidence out there to prove that he, at the very least, mentally harmed a child, which is, at least in my opinion, arguably as bad, if not worse. He then apologizes, again, and is then upset that people cut ties with him. And I was like, well, you fucking reap what you sow. Even if you are mentally damaged, that's the result of your own actions. He then says, quote, and this is what made me lose my shit a little bit, I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. And I'm like, buddy, you're a grown-ass man. There are 2 people that we know of who were underage that you groomed. One called Jane, and another one several years later called Syphis. Again, Syphis is more allegedly at this point, because I can't find a lot of verified information on that. As a result of your self-isolation, because of a decade-old pissing contest you'll have with Mike Simon, you are delusioned if you think that this video has done anything to help your reputation other than show the world how fucked sideways in the head you are. Like, seriously, dude, you need to get your shit together. And then he does close the video before he talks about another controversy. Like, apparently there's a sex license that he suggested a while back. Anyway, before he gets to that, he says, I think I'm ready to get back to work. And I'm like, no the fuck you ain't. No the fuck you ain't. And this is the last thing I'm going to say on this video. It's like, you ain't fucking ready to return back to work. The only thing you're ready to do is to see a fucking therapist and step away from the project. Again, you mentioned the problem, well, one of the problems multiple times in this video. Your self-isolation as a result of working on this game is what caused you to be so fucked in the head that you thought grooming a minor was an appropriate way to have a social life. I mean, hello, red flags going. Stop this shit. Step away from the game, stop development, seek help. And that's all I'm going to say on that. Again, where to go from here is largely up to Jane. But what you can do is that if you're a victim of mental or sexual health, here's one person you can call in America, RAIN.org. They do a lot of work to end sexual violence, more mental health, as the National Institute of Mental Health. Again, they themselves can't offer specialized help, but even if they can't do that, they know people who can help you. And that's pretty much where I'm going to leave this. I would like to say I've heard more from Jane. I would like to say that she's given an update, but she's since cut ties and gone gone to ground, trying to escape the situation, which, fair enough, this is a lot to deal with. What I will say is, this is not over, and if that video was anything to go by, shit's gonna get worse. So, hang tight, pray to whatever god you pray to, and hope that this shit gets better. I will see you around.